100 Days of Gratitude, day 42, and today I'm grateful for knowing the difference between currency and money. And that is having taken steps towards some sort of, financial education. Most of that has been self-education in the sense that it's just been an interest, a curiosity of mine. Most people, if you were to say that in the Western world that most people are illiterate, that's not a very good statement, right? You would like, well, wait a minute. Actually, what we've done over the last several decades in terms of increasing the literacy rate and what that has done for humanity, that is true for reading and writing. But in our kind of modern Western society, most people are financially illiterate. And that is an unfortunate thing. It puts each of us at a disadvantage. So is that maybe why? Is that intentional? Whatever it is up to each of us as individuals to know and understand how the financial system works. What is money? What is currency? Just as a fundamental difference between the two, because like it or not, it governs our entire life. Our every single day is dependent on financial interactions, and one can say that that's just not right or it's unfair, and much of that is true. Like, the current economic system is not fair. There's so many injustices to it, but yet the nature of money, currency, and the role that it plays is key and fundamental to human existence, right? None of us can live without it, and all cultures around the world throughout time have had some form of money, currency that can be traded, exchanged for goods, right? It's a store of value. It's a representation of effort, energy. And in fact, there's a very specific definition of what is money. And this is key to get into it as it relates to throughout time, but also most importantly to today. We've got the SVB Silicon Valley Bank crash. There's a Signature Bank crash. Like, a lot of smaller banks are in trouble, the whole banking system. And it's not that they were doing anything like inherently wrong in the moment that caused it. It is just where we're at in the whole game, how it's unfolding, what is coming to fruition. And I could be wrong, but I don't think this is the big one, in that regard. Like, at some point, the whole thing is going to absolutely collapse. A reset is on the way. The monetary system does reset itself every so often. Is it 70 years, something like that? The world reserve currencies change, and we're about due. A lot of people have been saying, like, since 2008, we are just pushing the can down the road. We're like on further borrowed time, borrowed money for sure. So I started saying, one of the things I'm grateful for, beyond just financial literacy and having an understanding of economics and money, which is very small. This is definitely not my expertise, but it has become a bit of a hobby, an interest, to learn about it, listen to others who are far more knowledgeable, and trying to get an understanding. Now, there's a very specific definition of what is money. It's got to be durable. It's got to be portable. It's got to be divisible. It's got to be, transferable, used as a medium of exchange. And depending on the definition you look at, there's, gosh, you can really like rabbit hole this thing, right down to the minutia. But generally there's 5 or 6 like key characteristics and traits, like portability, divisibility, transferability, fungibility, these different names and terms. But the one thing that distincts currency from money, so currency is those things, money is all those things, but the one thing that money is that currency is not, and then I'll give examples of the two in a moment, is money is a store of value, right? It's not only a representation of value, but it literally is a store of value. Whereas currency, maybe in the short term, right? And that short term can be, a few months to a few years to a few decades. But money, real money, true money, that sets it apart, distinct and different from currency, is that it is a long-term store of value. Like literally decades, centuries. And, the most kind of foundational, obvious representation of money is gold. It has been the money of the ages. It's that which humans have used. It meets all those criteria. Every other aspect of what a good, solid money should be, it's that. And so it's no kind of accident or coincidence that humans, cultures around the world have sought gold as money. Now, currency could be anything. And of course, what we have today is we have fiat currency. Now, fiat means, by decree, where we are literally, and definitely more metaphorically, held at gunpoint to use government-created currency, forced to use it. And I think this is what's going to happen with CBDCs as well. It'll be this new currency. It's like, oh, the old system doesn't work anymore. Come on over, and there'll be all these kinds of incentives. It'll be, the carrot and stick approach. The carrot being the lure, right? Like, oh, yeah, sorry, you defaulted on your debts. Well, just come on over here, and possibly all that'll be forgiven. Just come into the new system. We knew the old system, wasn't fair. It had its holes. It had met its time. So come on over here. Everyone will get a bonus, startup, sign up bonus. PayPal did this, open an account and get $20, or your EI, your pension, your child tax benefit, whatever these things are, these social programs, will be in the new currency when that happens. That's kind of the carrot. Now the stick is that gunpoint. Just try not paying your taxes, or pay them in something else, right? Pay them a different currency, seashells or cacao beans, or other things that other people have used around the world throughout time. Fiat means no, you must use this, and you must kind of adhere and follow along. So there'll be penalties, right? That could be jail time, that could be fines, that could be, you name it. Look throughout history and all the kind of threats that have been used against people to force them into a particular economic system that is, controlled by and for the benefit of, those at the top. Be that in the past, right? It was the kings, the queens, and it was the church, and of course now we have the state. So currency, what we have right now are dollars, right? Depending on where you live in the world, it's, it has no value, right? It only has value because we've assigned value to it. Whereas something like gold, something like silver, inherently has its own value. And as all these other currencies have come and gone, they're just certificates, they're just exchanges, they're representations of that true value, which is money. And currency is something that does not have that store value. Sure, it's divisible, it's portable, it's transferable, it's everything else, but it does not store value. Every single currency that's ever been created has gone to zero. Since the 1913, the Federal Reserve, the inception of it, the US dollar has lost 98% of its value. So in just a little over 100 years. And, the average lifespan of a currency, some of them just they come, they go. The British pound, that lasted for quite a while. US dollar lasted for quite a while. At some point, we're nearing the end of that life cycle of that currency. And at some point soon, it will also return to zero. And even if that is another 10 years, I mean, the fact that they're telling you, right, 2% inflation. They want to devalue that currency by 2% every year. That's their stated goal. Are you okay with losing 2% of, the value of your currency? But as we know, it's gone way above that. And even by official rates, what at points we were up to 6, 7%. But the actual true rate of inflation, because, here's the trick, is how do they calculate inflation? This is how they're able to kind of manipulate your perception of it and what is really going on. So there's a man named John Williams of Shadow Stats. He calculates it, using an older reference point for how they used to calculate inflation. He says, it's easily up to 15%. So this is very indicative of kind of end stages of currency where those who are in control of it, who can literally, print it at will. Or in the old days, even if it was gold and silver coinage, they would mix it with metals. They would shave it down. They would do all these kinds of things to increase the currency base, because when they do that, right, it's, hey, get something for nothing. And now there's literally nothing backing it. It is just a piece of paper, a piece of plastic. It's our faith in it. It is our, acceptance of it as having value, but it has no value at all. It's created, out of thin air. And very oftentimes just keystrokes. So to save one's wealth in currency, and I think this is the practical part of it. Sure, one can theoretically understand, but what do you do with that? So I'm not saying, the dollar is trash and get rid of all your cash, not by any means. We live in a system where every single day we have to use that currency. That just is the name of the game. It is what it is. We can do barter on the side. We can do all kinds of other things, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. We got to use it. So the main thing that I've been working on since about, 2010, and I feel kind of late to the game in that sense, is, savings in money, investing in money. So that which cannot be inflated away, that which is going to hold its value, hold its wealth, and whether I trade that in and out for the currency of the day, that is an option. And typically in kind of resets and, changes of currencies, shifts in monetary systems, that wealth continues to extend through if it's in that form. And it's not the only form. There can be other places, obviously, to invest and park your wealth. But I think, gold and silver are real money. They're going to hold their value. And I see them as long-term, even generational wealth to maintain, to hold, to be able to pass down. A friend of mine, his father back in the 80s invested in gold, and he might have even done this sooner. Maybe it was even in the 70s, of which some of his kids began to be born in the 70s, all the way through. I think the last one was born in 83. During that time, knowing, okay, I've got kids, got a little extra cash, I'm going to invest in their future, as most parents will start to think about, college funds and this and that. And, there's all kinds of vehicles to do that. In Canada, there's the RESP. One can put that in, but if you think about 20 years later, if you put $1,000 in, if you put $100 in, at 2% per year, what are you going to get into in 20 years? The value of it. We can look back in history, and it's just so obvious. And it's accelerating how much that currency is devaluing. So is that a good place to, store your wealth long term, store your savings long term? I would say not. So what he had done is he bought all his kids, like he kept investing his savings for his kids in gold. And so when it came that they were like 18, 20, and it's like, okay, one actually went to school with it. The other one bought a house with it. I don't know what the third one did, but amazing, right? And they had so many more options versus just like, this is an education fund that you can only go to these institutions and spend it here and there and da 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 da. So I'm not giving financial advice. I'm just giving a perspective on other potentials, other possibilities, and it's what I am doing. It's what I have done, and though there can be in the kind of short to medium term some volatility, in the long term. And that's why I really shifted my thinking. When I first got into it, it was like, oh, this is a great way to get rich. And it's like, no, it's not. It's a way to hold and maintain your wealth for the long term. Again, not just thinking, oh, it's going to go up in 6 months. You might catch a wave like that. Absolutely. It's very possible. A year, 5 years, but literally it's like 1 decade, 2 decades. It's something that one can pass down to their children. And it's also insurance. It's in that form, whether you hold it physically, whether you've got, it in a vault. It's something that if something happens, right? Say the last couple of years, it's like, oh, damn, we lost our job. Interest rates are increasing. Like, we need to pull from that. It's there. It's not as readily, usable in this day and age, convertible back, but there can be, as an insurance, a little safety nest. So anyways, huge topic. This is not my field of expertise, but I have a decent understanding, a working understanding that has been serving me for the last number of years. And as we go into further financial uncertainty, look at all these people that had, their currency in a bank, what they thought was their wealth, what they thought was their savings, and then poof, sure, FDIC, is going to come rescue them if they had, 250,000 or less. But if it was outside the system, and I think this is another kind of power of, recognizing the difference between currency and money. Money would be, gold and silver are like what some people describe. It's like, it's nature's wealth. It's gold's wealth, gold's money, or God's money, versus, this fiat currency that, yes, we all need to use, but it's feeding the system. And when you take it outside the system, it's a vote. You vote with your dollar. You shift that energy. You shift that focus. You don't give the banks access. Like when you put your money in a bank, it's you're investing in that bank. You're loaning it to them. It's not your currency anymore. They're doing things with it that you may not actually agree with, and you're not guaranteed to get it. If you try and pull out, just go to your bank and say, hey, I want $5,000 out, or I want $10,000 out, or I want $20,000 out. Just see how easy that is. It's not very easy. You're going to get interrogated. And as these people with their banks like literally collapsed, government's going to come to the rescue. Like, great, we'll just print more currency. Here you go. It's not a guarantee that it's there. But if you hold it physically, you own it, you've got it stored somewhere, there's no counterparty risk, right? There's no third party that you are relying on, like a bank, like a government, like any other, institution, that your currency is safe, that your wealth is safe. It's not, just under the premise of inflation. And anyways, lots more on that topic. It's been a big one of late. I think it's going to continue to move that way. If anybody's kind of investing in this area or thinking about it, just keep your mind that it's long term. So anything that you don't need for the next 2, 5, 10 years, right? Or you're saving for in a decade or in 2 decades, I wouldn't have it in currency. I would not have it in dollars or anything like that for that long-term picture. Get it out of the system, put it in something real, invest it in actual real money, not currency, which is basically continually getting devalued. And we'll see where all this goes.